was on Twitter and I saw this just before I came on air, actually, from Alex Tiffin, and he highlights this from Mirror Politics today. Tory Department of Work and Pension Chief welcomes a move to offer food bank vouchers to ex-Thomas Cook staff. This is the Thomas Cook, the airline agency that's just gone bump. Tory DWP chief welcomes move to offer food bank vouchers to ex-Thomas Cook staff, says the Daily Mirror. Therese Coffey says she welcomes the support that's given to help people in this difficult time. As she spoke out on the collapse in the Commons, she welcomes the support that's given to help people in this difficult time. Food bank vouchers. Tories back Thomas Cook staff going to food banks. This is the world we live in. Forget the Brexit stuff. This is the important stuff. This is what's really happening. The new Tory welfare chief has said she welcomes reports that food bank vouchers are being offered to former Thomas Cook staff. Therese Coffey said offering stricken workers 3-day emergency parcels would help them in a, quote, difficult time. Yeah, difficult. It's difficult when, the state of the economy has meant that you won't be able to pay your mortgage or put food on the table and feed your kids. Difficult time. I wonder if Therese Coffey is having a difficult time. And the Work and Pension Secretary urged them to approach job centres to claim universal credit after 9,000 staff in the UK were left jobless. 9,000. Her comments appear to conform reports last week that laid-off workers were using the charity food vouchers and relying on financial help from friends and family. Yeah, welcome to the real world, Thomas Cook. It's been happening for a while. Miss Coffey, who became Department of Work and Pensions Chief a month ago, spoke out for the first time in the Commons over the collapse. Labour MP Lisa Forbes said former Thomas Cook employees are, quote, being offered food bank vouchers by the Department for Work and Pensions. Former Thomas Cook worker sells wedding dress on eBay to make men's week. There's another article. And Therese Coffey said offering stricken workers 3-day emergency parcels would help them in a difficult time. If you want to read the rest of this article, go and read it, but I won't read it all. But I want to actually just get to one part of this article and one part of what they said. The Work and Pensions Secretary urged them to approach job centres to claim universal credit after 9,000 staff in the UK were left jobless. To those people who are, those 9,000 people, many of which are going to go and have to go to the job centre now and claim universal credit, I want to give you a window into what your life is going to be like for the next year if you are claiming it for a year. Because I was on universal credit. I was on universal credit up until January this year. I was on universal credit when I applied for universal credit back in November 2017, just as many of those people from Thomas Cook are going to be applying for it now. I applied for it in November 2017, and what I was told, well, actually, I applied for work in a department. In November 2017, I applied for working tax credits, and working tax credits said to me, well, universal credit is coming out in December in your area, therefore we can't take your case on. You need to apply for working universal credit, and what you need to do is you need to tell them you tell them this, and send them the email, and they'll backdate it. Okay, so I waited. It was December the 6th, they said. So I waited until December the 6th, and I sent the email off to the job centre to apply for universal credit. Universal Credit then sent me an email back saying, actually, it doesn't roll out until January. It's been postponed by 3 weeks. So I had Christmas. I had December 2017 with no money. I just had what I was making from my websites at the time, which was not a lot. I was writing a book. And I was making, I think I managed to scrape by about £60 in AdSense in December of that year. So I had to go through the whole month. Now, I was fortunate because I got a family and friends who I could rely on and who believed in me. And I got through that Christmas. I can obviously buy people presents and what have you, which is sad. Um, but I got through it. And it's not presents that count, it's the love of your family. And then in January, I went in to Universal Credit. I walked into the job centre after sending them an email on the 1st of January and got a response. I think it was on the 2nd of January. I walked in and I was greeted by a young lady there. And well, I'll say young, she was probably in her 40s. She was lovely. She was fantastic. She asked me what I was doing, and I said, I'm doing something with my websites, and I'm an internet marketer, and I'm writing a book. And she said, well, what you're doing then is you're basically being self-employed, and we can treat you like a business. I said, right, okay, Gordon Dimmack Limited it is then. And she said, well, because we're going to treat you like that, what we do is we treat you as if you're a full-time employee. I said, okay. And she said, and what you will do is you will obviously we'll have to show that you're making money. I said, well, I already am. I've already made money in the last couple of months. And it's getting more and more. This month I'm expecting it's going to be a couple of £100 I'm going to make. And she said, well, what we do is we basically top up your wages. We treat it like your wages then to get to your minimum income floor. Okay. And I said, what's that? And she said, well, it's what the minimum wage is. Okay. So whatever the minimum wage was at that time, and £8.50 or whatever it was, I would basically, what it would basically mean was I would get enough to pay my rent and live. And I was obviously working as well. And if I proved for the next year that, my business was viable and it was something that could make money and support myself, then, they would keep paying it me and support me through that year. That's what I was told when I went in there. She said, how did you get through Christmas? I said, with the help of friends and family. I said, by the way, I applied back in November. You're going to obviously backdate it. And she said, yes, we'll sort all that out. And she said, do you need some money to tide you over? And because you obviously won't get anything for 4 or 5 weeks or whatever it was until the second week in February. And I said, well, I've got none at all. So she gave me an advance of £600 and said that I would have to pay £50 per month. £50 would get taken off my payment over the following months until I'd paid off the £600. I said, well, that's fine. I'll just pay it off when you give me what you owe me from December when it's backdated. Okay, I went on, and then January I continued. I think I wrote, Russiagate basically was done, and the book that I was writing back then, and I continued with my websites and, expanding things. And February came, and I filled out my form, and I was expecting them to top. I think I made something like £300, so I was expecting them to top me up with about £700 of, to reach that minimum income floor. And I logged into my Universal Credit account and there was zero there. And the payment was zero. Payment due, zero. So I rang them up and I had a bit of a barney on the phone with them and ended up having to catch the bus up to Wolverhampton and sort it out. And I was up there for about an hour and a half. And basically what I was told was everything that I was told in January, everything was false. Everything I had been told was false. I was expected to earn over the minimum wage on the system that they'd set up for me, otherwise I would get nothing. Now I had to explain the situation to them all and explain how angry and upset I was. Obviously I was apoplectic at the time, as you can imagine. But the guy I spoke to, he was great. The staff there were great, honestly. Universal, the frontline staff I spoke to at Universal Credit were fantastic anyway, in my experience. As soon as you go anywhere above them, forget it. But anyway, that's just my experience. I realise that they're not all great, and I maybe, but let's face it, that woman was totally wrong. She fed me a load of crap. Everything that she said was wrong. So basically, after a while, they ended up sending me money, but it wasn't as much as I expected. What it actually turns out was I would get about £650 But for every pound I made of my own, 50 pence would come off that. So for every pound I earned up to that minimum income floor, I was only getting 50 pence. So straight away, it's almost like you could almost say, well, universal credit, you go on that, you basically halve the money you get. You do. Because they take 60 or 50 pence off the money that they give you for every pound that you earn. That's the rules. As a result, I ended up getting something like a payment of about £500, and my rent was, obviously took a massive chunk of that. And I managed to get through February. And actually, I managed to get through February. And February was the month I actually was the year anniversary. Was it? Yeah, February was the month I started my channel. The reason I started this channel was I thought maybe, promote what I was doing, promote the book. I didn't know where it was going to go. And things went from there, with it sort of morphed into this. But it was something that I'm very good at. It's something that I was persistent at, and something that I could prove I could make money in, and people would support me. So as it turns out, with Universal Credit, I ended up getting something like 400 and something pounds as a result. After they took off the amount, because I'd made £200 that month, so they took £100 off me straight away. This is the sort of thing that the Thomas Cook staff are going to find out about Universal Credit. This is just from one person's experience. I know people in my chat right now who have got similar. I know that for a fact because I've talked to them about it. So February came and I said, listen, this is unfair on me, what you've been told, what you've told people. I want to launch a complaint. And I launched a complaint into Universal Credit. I think it was the beginning of March. I think the original official complaint went in, because after a few weeks I said, where's my complaint gone? And they said, oh, you need to send an official complaint in. So I finally wrote a complaint in March. And then I got my March payment, March of 2018. And they'd taken £76 off me more this time for what they called an overpayment of working tax credits in 2015. Because I was at one stage, I had 8 months payments of working tax credits in 2015. Again, I was self-employed back then. Though I was entitled to them, I actually was entitled to more. I've never claimed as much as I could have. And I can prove that I was entitled to them. And I can prove that what they were sanctioning me for, that's what they call it when they take money off you. They call it a sanction. They sanctioned me basically 15% of whatever Universal Credit took. They took it directly out of Universal Credit for something that I'd done 3 years ago. I went to Universal Credit to complain about it, and they said you have to speak to working tax credits. Spoke to working tax credits finally on the phone 3 times. 3 times it took me to finally get through to somebody. It's a nightmare. You do not set up a system up well. You are on hold for hours. And then when you get through, you get cut off. Especially if you have a difficult case. One that you can prove. You can prove they're wrong, or nobody wants to speak to you. And I could prove what they were doing was wrong. But what they said was, because it was 2015, you've only got 12 months to appeal. So you only had 2017 to appeal, and now it's 2018, so tough. You're joking. I want to appeal. Now you'll have to get, the only people who can do it is Universal Credit, working tax credits. No, they don't really do it. Basically, for the next 6 months, they banged me backwards and forwards. And they kept taking 15% of the money off me. Bear in mind, they were already taking £50 off me per month. I still hadn't had my backdated money from December. And whenever I spoke to anybody at Universal Credit at the offices, I would get cut off and fobbed off. Oh, I'll find out about it. It's gone up the chain, etc., etc. Then, I'm just trying to think of the timeline now. It got through to September. I think it was September. And I finally had an email. It wasn't a phone call, it was an email from somebody who was dealing with my complaint. And she finally got to the bottom of it. My complaint, because it was sent to the wrong office, an email that no longer existed back in February, nothing had been done with it. 7 months. 7 months since I originally made the complaint, and me calling up every single week, I think. Certainly once, twice a month for those months, trying to get to the bottom of it. They fobbed me off for 7 months, and in the end, I'm sorry, we've sent it to the wrong place. We sent it to an email that no, I can actually prove this. I've still got the emails. She finally took my complaint and went through the complaints process, and it came back. No proof, no proof, no proof, no proof. All of my complaints, they just said it's no proof. I'm like, I have got the proof. I rang him up. I said, I have got the proof. I've got the people at Universal Credit. I got that woman. I know her. She's lovely. She'll tell the truth. I finally rang up, and she'd been dismissed and sacked from the job months prior. She was working in Bilston, miles away. Couldn't get in touch with her. The guy who was lovely with me all of a sudden wouldn't take my calls. I had no recourse of action. Now that was by September this year, so I was making basically enough. I wasn't still not making minimum wage now, but I was making enough to basically keep by. I was basically, if you look, my t-shirts are £2. February came, and I was expecting them basically to. I think it was about £180 a payment I was expecting from them because of how much I'd got in January. And I'd calculated they were going to send me about £180. And they didn't send it. And basically the reason they didn't send it was this is basically all the help they will give you for a year. After that, you're on your own. I'm still not making that minimum income floor now. As a result of them not paying me that, by the way, then I never got the backdated money, the 6 weeks backdated money I should have. I never got it. But this is what the universal credit system is, people. And this is what the system is. It's not designed to help people. It's not designed to be a safety net. It's designed to frustrate you as much as possible, and designed to fuck you over as much as possible, and designed to make you absolutely tearing your hair out in frustration. That's how it's designed. Because if it was designed with helping in mind, then by God, have they fucked up at every single fucking turn that they could have. To the people at Thomas Cook, the 9,000, many of which who will be going to Universal Credit, this is your future. Get everything down, get everything on tape, make sure everything is recorded. When you talk to somebody, record every fucking conversation. Because if you don't, there will be no recourse of action. You have to get them by the balls. Because they'll do it with you. I'm living proof of it. Universal Credit is the Tory final solution. This is what you've got to expect, Thomas Cook staff. I hope you really have a much, much better experience with Universal Credit than I and millions of others have. My worry is many of you, at least one or two of you, it's going to be too much for them. Same as it has for many others who have killed themselves as a result of being sanctioned like I was, and having no recourse of action. I hope you get a different treatment.